Don't,
Who's on? Liz.
that's a me.
Okay, we're waiting. We're waiting.
Yes, we are always in wait mode.
Ladies in
I
wait.
have-
No, David's here.
Yellow.
Oh, hello.
And Rabbi Karsh, too.
I don't have to pretend to be a woman.
No, we said we were ladies.
That's tomorrow.
We were ladies in
Oh,
waiting. Yeah,
that's
that's
right.
tomorrow.
That's it.
I sit behind a machita anyway, so
Good morning. Let us.
that's what happened when we Tells made an attempt at Kiruv. So they sent what's his name? Moshe, what's his name?
Keller.
Really nice guy. I really liked him, but
Yeah.
he was no good at Kiruv.
Not with these guys. They all thought he was crazy.
They
Okay.
ate him for breakfast.
Yeah,
as they say.
yeah.
I could imagine. All right. All right. So in negative commandment 200, Reish, we read that chametz shall not be seen. And now we have a separate mitzvah, a negative commandment, Reish Aleph 201, that chametz cannot be found, even if it is not seen. So, for instance, let's say you conceal the chametz, you have it locked in a storage room, let's say a storage room. So you have it locked there and it is out of sight. Nobody can see it. So he prohibited us that chametz not be found in our possession, even if we do not see it, even if it was deposited elsewhere.
Wait, just doesn't one follow from the other? I mean, if I found it, it has to be visible. If I'm able to find it, it has to be visible.
Well, let's say let's say you left it with a Gentile. The average person would not know that's your chametz. Nobody would know that's your chametz. You know it's your chametz. The guy who it's with knows it's your chametz, but nobody else would know it's your chametz. So yeah, I mean,
Maybe it had it the other way around. If it's visible, then it's obviously able to be found. That's the stronger proposition.
Okay, so you're saying that why do you need this if you already have, right? So let's say you had this and you didn't have the visible one.
Right.
Wouldn't this cover all scenarios? Yeah,
now
so
you're talking about your own place, right? I mean, if you happen to walk by a place and there's bread in the window.
No, it's your chametz. In this
your
case,
chametz.
Your chametz. You own the chametz.
Okay.
Yeah, but so David is saying, if you own it, then certainly, if it was visible, obviously we're talking about your chametz.
Right.
So if we say that it cannot be found, which would include even cases where it cannot be seen, but it would certainly include all cases where it could be seen. So what do we need mitzvah 2000? Is that how you're saying it? What do we need mitzvah 2000 for?
I believe
that 2001.
Okay. I believe it, but I believe I was saying the opposite 10 minutes ago. So
right, but then you switched it. I'm going with your latest articulation. We just did a Gemara today where there was a position of Rabbi Yehoshua mentioned in our Mishnah. I'm sorry. Yeah, we had a Mishnah in Avodah Zarah that declared a position of Rabbi Yoshua, and then there's a Mishnah in Chulin where it seems like he holds a different opinion about it. And the Gemara's resolution was that he changed his mind. In other words, our Gemara, our Mishnah was after he had changed his mind. The one in Chulin was before he had changed his mind. He had been persuaded by an argument. So initially, he had a position. Then Rabbi Yishmael, who was like a student of his, asked him a question, and because of the question, he changed his position. So the Gemara says that the Mishnah in Chulin represents his first opinion, and the Mishnah Avodah Zarah represents his second opinion. But they made the decision for some reason to keep the Mishnah in Chulin, even though he changed his mind. So that's like memorialized in your learning Chulin. That's going to be the opinion you see of Rabbi Yoshua, even though he changed his opinion later on. And we had a similar thing in Chagiga, where they had opinion of Beis Hillel, and then Beis Shammai asked a question, and Beis Hillel agreed with the premise of the question and changed their mind. But they still kept the first opinion in the Mishnah and Chagiga. So your first opinion could be enshrined. That's all I'm saying. Both opinions will be discussed. Okay. He prohibited us that chametz not be found in our possession, even if we do not see it, even if it was deposited elsewhere. And that is his saying, no leaven shall be found in your houses for 7 days. We give lashes also for this on condition that there be an action, as we mentioned, according to the principles that they set down in Tractate Shavuot. So again, we talked about this in the last mitzvah. If it's a passive transgression, there's no malchus, there's no lashes. So in order for you to get lashes, you'd have to actually take this action during Pesach. So you'd have to like buy it or take or receive it as a gift and then keep it. And that would be an active violation of this. Okay, and then you would get lashes. But otherwise, if you just left it where it was beforehand, you wouldn't get lashes because it's not an active transgression. According to the principle that they set down in Tractate Shavuos. And in the explanation, they said in many places, one transgresses because it may not. I think that's an extra knot there. One transgresses because of it may not be seen and it may not be found. The regulations of these two commandments have been explained at the beginning of Tractate Psachim. And there, the matter that he prohibited by saying no leaven shall be found in your house for 7 days have been explained. And there it is explained that every negative commandment can infer from one besides itself that which was indicated about the other commandment, and that one who holds on to chametz on Pesach transgresses 2 negative commandments: do not have seen and do not have found. Their choices of how they translate this are really, I know they're trying to be as literal as possible, but okay, so it sounds like here the Rambam is saying both your points. It sounds like that's what he's saying. In other words, each one of these could be inferred from the other. And therefore, anybody who has chametz on Pesach will transgress both. So it sounds like he's saying every scenario would be like that. I just want to see. Yeah. Eh, So I'm just trying to think, like the first way, which is that every time you can see it, it must also be found in your possession. But what about what about if it's not in your possession? What if you left it by somebody else? You left it by a Gentile. So nobody besides you and the Gentile know that this is your chametz, but it is seen. It's chametz that is seen. People could see it. But I guess what he's saying here is it's not enough that they can see it. They have to know it's yours that they are seeing. They have to know they are seeing your chametz. If they say it's found in your possession, obviously they don't mean technically on your property, because if I left it with somebody else and it's mine, I could still transgress it. So I guess that's why. If they see it, in order for me to transgress, they have to see it and they have to know it's a Jew's chametz.
Yeah, I remember just reading the other a couple
Yeah.
days. They were
Yeah.
talking about chametz, that you're not allowed to store chametz.
Yeah.
If I just leave it in the guy's barn, but I haven't done mechira,
Right. It's still mine. It's
yeah,
still mine. So, but the thing is, why isn't that only, in other words, it's not found in my possession. It's found in his possession. It is mine. But when it says, you shall not, how do, we said, the chametz, he prohibited us that chametz not be found in our possession, even if we do not see it and it was deposited elsewhere. So that's still called our possession. That's what he's saying. It's still called our possession. So that's still called my possession. That means it's still found there. So there's no scenario in either direction. There's no scenario where you would have one without the other. And he's not bothered by that. He's not bothered by, why do you need both in that case? I'm just going to quickly try this in Perplexity and see what it says here. Why do we need both? Baal and Baal ye say if whenever you transgress one, you transgress the other. stupid. YoniIsaacson.com.
Lois
Alright.
doesn't want me to make this comment.
Yeah, but do it. I bet you're doing it anyways. That's okay.
Okay. The thing is, if you want to say one is included in the other and the other is included in the first, it's sort of like you're saying in general. If they sentence A entails sentence B, and sentence B entails sentence A. According to classical logic, that means that they're the same proposition. There's not two. It's considered to be as
because you can't find a situation where one is not the other.
right.
Oh, I get
That's
it. Yeah, nice.
That's good, but no, that's not that's like this, considered opinion. But it gets more complicated when you deal with morality, which we can deal with it some other time. But in general, the Rambam's going to have difficulty if he takes the attack. That's it. Goodbye.
Yeah, and also I have this guy YoniIsaacson.com, whatever. He says the relationship between the prohibition against seeing chametz and the prohibition against owning chametz is more subtle. Although they are counted by the Rishonim as two separate prohibitions, see, for example, Sefer HaMitzvos 200 and 201, the Gemara understands that they share parameters, and whenever the one applies, the other applies as well. For example, even if one owns chametz that is hidden from sight, one transgresses both prohibitions, even though one does not see it. Even if one owns chametz that is hidden from sight, one transgresses both prohibitions, even though one does not see it. In addition to this double prohibition, there is also a command of removing chametz from one possession. There is so much to go into regarding this double prohibition and its related positive commandment. We shall hopefully get a chance to understand them a lot more. Yeah, so now
Can
the
I ask,
question,
it's
yeah,
stupid,
why
so
do we need both? Yeah.
we assume that that can't be found. Maybe if someone comes across it, I don't, either the guy who has it or another Jew is there and says, "What is this?" And they say, "That's Shmuel's chumetz. That's found." And so if Shmuel
Right, but
hasn't
if right, so you're
hasn't
saying
sold
it could potentially be found because the
right,
one who it's deposited with always knows. And since he always knows, there's always a possibility that word will get out.
right,
So even though it may never come out, so let's say Pesach ended and nobody ever knew that it was his chametz.
Ah.
So after it ended, nobody saw his chametz.
right,
Or just, I guess you don't even have to have that complicated a case. What happens if I have it in my house, but I lock my house and nobody enters my house for Pesach, during Pesach? So nobody could be said to have seen it. It's not visible in the sense that it's locked and there's no access to people during that time.
what if
So,
a robber comes in and finds
right.
it?
So that seems to be the thing. The fact that technically it worked out that nobody saw it or that nobody found it, it doesn't seem to matter as long as there's a possibility that
Right,
they could see it. If there's a possibility that they could see it, then it's called seen, or Bal Yirah, it shouldn't be seen. You transgress it, even if there's just a possibility it would be seen, and you transgress Bal Yimotze. So it's just funny. Yeah. So again, when he says the case is, let's say somebody finds out that you have chametz there, but he never sees it, you still transgress both. So you would say the reason you transgress both is that it could potentially be seen, not that it was in fact seen, something like that. But then our question is, like, if you can deduce one from the other, you're never going to have a case where you're liable for one that you're not liable for the other. Then why do you need both of these? If there's never a scenario where one applies and the other doesn't, then why do you need both of them? You can have an action where we say that you're liable for several different transgressions, like for eating a bug. We said there's certain kind of bugs that if you eat them, they check off the box of flying shrutzim. They check off the box of shrutzim. They check off. So you could have an instance where you transgress several different prohibitions, but each one of those prohibitions would have had a scenario where the other ones wouldn't apply. It's not that they always apply together. It's just you're having a convergence where a lot of them are applying in this case. But in our case, they always apply. There's never a case where one applied and the other didn't. And if that's it, then the question is, why do you need both of them? And you clearly do. He's listing them as two separate mitzvahs. This has to be discussed somewhere.
Isn't it just making a very strong case that you cannot own chametz no matter where, no matter how, no matter if it possibility that it could.
Yeah, you could say something like the Torah speaks in the language of people. Dibra Torah Koloshim B'nei Adam. But would you count them as two separate mitzvahs if you said that? You would just be saying, you're saying like the Torah just wants to really emphasize it. So it says both seen, both found or seen.
Yeah.
But then would you count that as two separate transgressions? If you're claiming that they're doing it just to emphasize it or to yeah, I guess. Yeah. Okay. It's maybe something that, all right. He prohibited a Nazirite from eating grapes. And if he eats a kazais of grapes, he is lashed, even though it seems like the concern is wine, but he's even forbidden to eat grapes. This might also fit into your category of things that, this is so serious, we're including this and this and this, which he's also listing as separate mitzvahs. But okay, he prohibited an Nazirite from eating grapes, and if he ate a kazais of grapes, he is lashed. And that is a saying, nor shall he eat grapes, fresh or dried. So even raisins. A Nazir cannot eat raisins, even. Next, he prohibited a Nazir from eating raisins. Wait, he just said fresh or dried. Didn't he just say that? He prohibited the Nazirite from eating grapes, and if he ate a kazais of grapes, he is lashed. Oh, I see. So he's quoting the verse, but he's not including the dried in this mitzvah. The verse says grapes, fresh. That's our mitzvah. Raisins are the same thing as dried grapes, right? Yeah, that's it. He prohibited the Nazirite from eating raisins, and that is his saying, nor shall he eat them dried. And if he ate of them, he is lashed. Yeah, so I guess this is also sort of like what you were saying, Lois, that in other words, he's mentioning both of them. Why? Because they just want to emphasize how far they want you to be from drinking wine. But since it mentions both, they are both considered separate mitzvahs. He
Do
prohibited the
you have
Nazareth. Yeah,
to,
go ahead.
oh, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry. Do you
No,
have
go
to
ahead.
register as a Nazareth?
Nope.
So in other words, if only you know you've taken on a Nazareth, should you submit yourself for lashes if you do something?
You wouldn't get lashes. I don't think Ein Adam Mesi Matzmo Russia. A person can't make yourself a Russia in that regard. You can
Ah.
turn yourself in as a thief. That you can do, but you wouldn't be believed to get lashes
Huh.
if you were the one who turned yourself in. But you still are transgressing. You know you transgressed.
Right.
And also yeah. So you would still, for instance, have to start over. Starting over involves having to bring sacrifices. Does it? Yeah. This would be the scenario. You became impure, but nobody knew you were a Nazir. So now you're telling people, I'm a Nazir. You're the only one who knows that fact. So one of the consequences is that you have to start your Nazirus over. Well, I guess at first I was thinking you have to bring offerings, but I don't think you do. I think you only bring the offerings after the end of the first one, after the end of the second one. You don't bring offerings just because you became impure. You just start over. You probably have to cut your hair again, but you don't bring offerings. Okay. He prohibited the Nazarite from eating grape seeds, and that is his saying from seeds, etc. Numbers 6:4. And if that's the Torah portion of Nassau, which is the main place where this is discussed, and if he ate a kazais of them, he is lashed. Now, seeds are not, as far as I understand, they're not really food. So, under what circumstance would you eat an olive size of grape seeds? I guess they don't necessarily care. It just works out. If you ate an olive size of grape seeds, you would transgress it. There's another one about grape skins. He prohibited the Nazarite from eating grape skins, and that is his saying to the skins, etc. And if he ate a kazais of them, he is lashed. The proof about each of these 5 types, meaning to say wine, grapes, raisins, seeds, and peels, being a separate commandment, is that one is lashed a separate set of lashes for each one of them. The language of the Mishnah in Nazir is, and he's obligated for wine on its own, for grapes on its own, for grape seeds on its own, and for grape skins on its own. And in the explanation, they said in the Gemara, Nazir, if he ate fresh grapes, raisins, grape seeds, and grape skins, and squeezed a cluster of grapes and drank the juice, he's lashed 5 times. But when they counted so as to uphold the words of the teacher, such that it turns out that he taught and left something out, so that one should be obligated more than 5 sets of lashes. They said, but behold, he left over the negative commandment of he shall not desecrate his word, lo yachel devaro, which is in this week's Torah portion of Matos. So there should be 6 things you've transgressed, because on top of everything else, he made an oath to be a Nazir, and he's transgressed that oath. So he's transgressed lo yachel devaro. Hmm. They didn't say, but behold, he left out vinegar, for he's not liable twice for wine and vinegar, as vinegar is actually forbidden because the source of its prohibition is wine. Vinegar is not separately prohibited. Vinegar is prohibited because it started as wine, or it was in the process of wine making. It did not recede. So its status of wine, it didn't lose the status of wine, even though it became vinegar. What is appropriate for you to know is that all these prohibitions of the Nazareth combined for a kazayis, and that he's lashed for a kazayis from all of them combined. So also, let's say you made a drink. The drink is wine, and the wine contains skins and seeds and raisins and grapes. Then you would transgress 5 separate prohibitions if you drank that in one go, if it added up to a kazait. Okay. But that's not the end of it. He prohibited the Nazarite from becoming impure with a corpse. And that is his saying, he shall not make himself impure for his father or for his mother. And if he became impure, whether with an impurity for which he must shave, or whether with one for which he must not shave, he is lashed. So apparently there's different types of tuma. Sometimes he has to start over. He has to start over by shaving his head and starting the counting again. Sometimes he does not. And he is loka. He gets malchus. Where was I just seeing this about the Nazir? Oh, who was saying this? Was it Rabbi Foreman? I don't know who was saying this, but if you look at the language of the prohibitions of the Nazir, you can find parallels in the laws of Kohanim to almost every one of them. And so the suggestion was that the Nazir is a non-Kohen who wants to live like a Kohen. By living like a Kohen, meaning to have the connection to God that a Kohen has. So he can't actually do the service in the Beis HaMikdash, but he can apparently reach a state that's Kohen-like, and that these prohibitions, these symbolic prohibitions of the Nazir, are indications that that's what he's looking to achieve, and the Torah is saying you can achieve it. The crown of God is on his head. It says the crown of sanctity or the crown of God is on his head, which is that is the same language for the tzitz, for the it's also called a nazer at some point. The tzitz is also that headband of the Kohen Gadol. So I don't remember who was making this point. It might have been somebody from Aleph Beta. I'm thinking it is, but I'm not sure. And if that's the case, that would mean that a non-Kohen could adopt a lifestyle of sanctity similar to a Kohen, and a non-Kohen or Levi, somebody who's just a Yisrael, could adopt a lifestyle where he is similar to a Levi. Again, he wouldn't get the tithe. Also, the Nazir doesn't get the truma. But as far as their kind of closeness to God, a relationship with God, So the Rambam says that at the end of his laws of Shemitah and Yovel, that not only a Levi um, has this special role to play. He goes through the fact that Levim were the teachers of Torah to God and were devoted to service of God. And then he says, not only this is not available only to a Levi, but anybody whose heart moves him and devotes themselves entirely to the service of God can achieve this status. So it seems like Yisrael can choose to live with the sanctity of a Levi, or Yisrael could choose to live with the sanctity of a Kohen by, in these different ways that it's available, which is sort of interesting.
Can a Nazir get married while
Yeah.
he's a
Yeah.
Nazir?
Yeah.
And to a widow.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So that's a good point. And he can't get truma. Yeah. So it's clearly, you don't just entirely step into their shoes. There's still quite a few distinctions. As with when the Rambam says that doesn't mean the guy gets miser. He doesn't get the tithe of the Levi if he does that. And so by the Kohen, he's not going to get truma. He's not going to get challah. He's not going to get what are called the gifts of the Kohen, which are the foreleg and the cheek and the abomasum from offerings, or the foreleg and part of the stomach from every shechted animal. So those are considered gifts to the Kohen. I'm certain that the Nazir does not get those gifts. So he's not getting the gifts, and there's elements of prohibition, as you're pointing out, that do not apply to him. For instance, he's allowed to marry a divorcee and a widow, which a Kohen cannot, and a convert, which a Kohen cannot. Yeah. So again, they were suggesting this because of what appears to be the textual similarity between the two. I'm not positive it was even Aleph Beta, but it was somebody like that. Yeah, but there's okay. So they can't come in direct contact with a dead body, and also he prohibited the Nazareth from entering into a tent of a corpse, and that is his saying, by a dead body he shall not come. So this is what we call tumas ohel, the impurity of being in the same tent or structure as a dead body, and you become tamei to the same degree as if you touched it. In the explanation, they said in the Gemara, Scripture spoke with a categorical verse, he should not be impure. Hence, when it states he shall not come, it is to prohibit him about the impurity and about the entering. And there they said that when he enters the tent after he becomes impure, he is only lashed once, and that he's only liable for 2 sets of the impurity. Right? He's only lashed once because he only did 1 act. He is only liable for 2 sets if the impurity and the entering were together. For example, if he entered into a house with a sick person and he sat there until the person died, so in such a case, it ends up that he became impure and he entered the tent at the same time. But if he enters the tent of a corpse, the impurity preceded the entrance, as is explained there, according to principles that are demonstrated in Ohalot. All right, so we're going to have to unpack that because there's something going on there. That is not obvious just from these words. It's obvious there's more going on there, but exactly what it is not clear from these words. So we're going to have to unpack that a little bit, and we'll do that on Monday, Bezrat Hashem. I look forward to it. I am grateful to be able to learn with you guys today.
Yes,
And I look forward.
thank you. That's an
so-
interesting idea about wanting to be like a Kohen.
Yeah,
It is.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
kind of interesting.
I agree. I agree.
Before that, I was just thinking that while you're doing all the negative mitzvahs, it's a little depressing. Don't.
Right, right,
Don't.
right. Obviously, that's not the sum of the experience, just like the negative commandments of Shabbos are not the sum of the experience of
Right.
Shabbos. But it doesn't spend, also with Shabbos, it doesn't spend a lot of detailed instruction, doesn't give us a lot of detailed instruction on how to make the most of Shabbos. And it doesn't give us detailed instruction about what it was that you were doing as a Nazir. It doesn't really, in both cases, very similar, that they tell you what you can't do, but they really don't counsel you or mentor you on what you're supposed to do.
I guess if you're training a convert, you wouldn't just start with don't.
Right, but you think the Torah would just say, all right, you can't do this, but you should be spending your time doing this. Like
Right,
spend your
right.
time doing this, this, and this. And same thing with Shabbos. It just says remember the Shabbos or guard the Shabbos, but it doesn't say what you're supposed to do with Shabbos. Yeah, okay. All right. Be
Thank
well,
you.
guys. All right.
Thank
See you
you.
tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.